The truth behind has been lurking in the shadows for over 3 decades, waiting for the right moment to surface and shatter everything America thought it knew about one of the most controversial cases in modern history. When OJ Simpson died in April 2024, many believed the secrets would die with him, but what emerged in early 2025 has left legal experts, family members, and the public reeling from revelations that change everything. The mystery that captivated a nation during the 1990s and divided public opinion along racial and social lines has finally reached a conclusion that nobody anticipated. What could be so devastating that it remained hidden for 31 years? What evidence could be so damning that it transforms our understanding of not just the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, but the entire fabric of American justice itself? Orenthal James Simpson was born on July 9, 1947 in San Francisco, California, growing up in the Potrero Hill housing projects with his mother Eunice, father Jimmy, and 3 siblings. His childhood was marked by poverty and his father's absence, as Jimmy Simpson left the family when OJ was 5 years old, later revealing his homosexuality, which was particularly challenging for an African-American family in the 1950s. Simpson's athletic prospects became evident during his teenage years at Galileo High School, where he initially struggled academically but excelled in football, track, and baseball. His speed and agility on the football field caught the attention of college recruiters, though his poor grades initially limited his options for higher education. After a brief stint at City College of San Francisco to improve his academic standing, Simpson received a scholarship to the University of Southern California in 1967. His time at USC transformed him from a promising athlete into a national phenomenon, as he set numerous rushing records and became the first player to rush for over 2,000 yards in a college season. The pinnacle of Simpson's college career came in 1968, when he won the Heisman Trophy as the nation's outstanding college football player. His acceptance speech and charismatic personality during the award ceremony helped establish him as not just an exceptional athlete but also a marketable public figure with crossover appeal. His success at USC extended beyond football to include his first forays into acting and commercial endorsements, setting the stage for what would become a multifaceted entertainment career that would make him one of the most recognizable athletes in American history. Simpson was selected first overall in the 1969 NFL Draft by the Buffalo Bills, beginning a professional football career that would span 11 seasons and establish him as one of the greatest running backs in NFL history. His early years with the Bills were marked by both individual success and team struggles, as he set rushing records while playing for consistently mediocre teams. The 1973 season represented the apex of Simpson's professional football career, as he became the first player in NFL history to rush for over 2,000 yards in a single season, finishing with 2,003 yards in just 14 games. This achievement, accomplished during an era when the NFL season was shorter and defenses were more focused on stopping the run, remains one of the most impressive individual accomplishments in sports history. Simpson's running style combined power, speed, and an almost supernatural ability to find gaps in defensive lines, earning him the nickname The Juice and making him one of the most exciting players to watch in professional football.
Every time he ran the ball, it was almost like the Bills' equivalent.
His success on the field translated into numerous endorsement deals and business opportunities that extended his influence far beyond sports. His NFL career concluded in 1979 after 2 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers, his hometown team, though by then injuries had diminished his effectiveness on the field. Despite the less than stellar ending to his playing career, Simpson's overall statistics and impact on the game secured his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985. The transition from football to entertainment proved surprisingly smooth for Simpson, who leveraged his athletic fame and natural charisma into a successful acting and broadcasting career that made him a household name beyond sports fans. Simpson's entertainment career began while he was still playing professional football, with his most famous early role being in commercials for Hertz rental cars.
The superstar in rent-a-car. You know it.
Where his running through airports became an iconic image of the 1970s. These advertisements showcased his personality and humor while capitalizing on his reputation for speed and agility. His transition into acting included roles in several films, most notably the Naked Gun comedy series, where he played Detective Nordberg alongside Leslie Nielsen. These films, released in 1988, 1991, and 1994, showcased Simpson's comedic timing and helped establish him as a legitimate entertainment personality rather than just a former athlete trading on his sports fame. Television work included sports broadcasting for NBC and various guest appearances on popular shows, demonstrating his versatility as a performer and his ability to connect with audiences across different demographics. His broadcasting work was generally well received and showed his knowledge of football and his ability to communicate complex sports concepts to general audiences. The success of Simpson's entertainment career was remarkable for a former athlete, as he managed to maintain relevance and marketability long after his playing days ended. This success was built on his combination of athletic achievement, personal charisma, and careful cultivation of a public image that appealed to both African American and white audiences. His entertainment work also provided financial security and maintained his public profile, making him one of the most recognizable former athletes in America by the early 1990s, which would prove significant when his personal life became the subject of intense public scrutiny. Simpson married his first wife, Marguerite Whitley, in 1967 while still in college, and the couple had 3 children together, Arnell, Jason, and Aren. The marriage lasted until 1979, ending in divorce after Simpson's NFL career concluded, though the relationship had been strained by his demanding schedule and alleged infidelities. The most tragic event of Simpson's early personal life occurred in 1979 when his youngest daughter, Aren, drowned in the family swimming pool just before her 2nd birthday. This devastating loss affected Simpson deeply and was reportedly one of the factors that contributed to the end of his marriage to Marguerite. In 1985, Simpson married Nicole Brown, a young woman he had met in 1977 while still married to Marguerite. Nicole was 18 when they met, and Simpson was 30, an age difference that would later become a subject of scrutiny when examining their relationship dynamics and the power imbalances that may have existed between them. The marriage to Nicole produced 2 children, Sydney and Justin, and appeared to many outsiders to be a glamorous union between a successful former athlete and a beautiful young woman. However, those close to the couple reported that the relationship was marked by jealousy, possessiveness, and increasing incidents of domestic violence as the years progressed. The couple divorced in 1992, but continued to have contact due to their shared custody of their children and Simpson's ongoing attempts to reconcile the relationship despite Nicole's apparent desire to move on with her life independently. The relationship between OJ Simpson and Nicole Brown was complicated by significant age and power differences that became more problematic as their marriage progressed, and Nicole matured from a teenager into an independent adult with her own opinions and desires for autonomy. Friends and family members of Nicole reported that Simpson was extremely possessive and controlling, monitoring her activities, restricting her friendships, and becoming increasingly violent when he felt his authority or relationship was being challenged. These behaviors escalated after their divorce, when Nicole began dating other men and Simpson struggled to accept the end of their marriage. Police records from the late 1980s and early 1990s document multiple domestic violence incidents between Simpson and Nicole, including a 1989 incident that resulted in Simpson pleading no contest to domestic violence charges. However, his celebrity status and the different attitude toward domestic violence during that era meant that he received minimal punishment and little public scrutiny for these behaviors. The pattern of abuse included physical violence, stalking, threatening behavior, and psychological manipulation that created an atmosphere of fear and control that many domestic violence experts recognize as typical of abusive relationships involving powerful men and their intimate partners. Nicole's attempts to establish independence and build a life separate from Simpson were consistently undermined by his refusal to accept the end of their relationship and his use of their children and his public persona to maintain control over her life and activities. On the evening of June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were murdered outside Nicole's Brentwood condominium in what appeared to be a violent attack that left both victims with multiple stab wounds and nearly severed Nicole's head from her body. Ronald Goldman, a 25-year-old waiter at the nearby Mazzullo restaurant, was apparently returning sunglasses that Nicole's mother had left at the restaurant earlier that day. His presence at the scene appeared to be coincidental, though his murder alongside Nicole suggested that he may have interrupted the attack or been seen as a witness who needed to be eliminated.
I thought, oh my God, Ron's been murdered.
The crime scene was discovered around midnight by neighbors who found the bodies outside Nicole's condominium in pools of blood. The brutal nature of the murders shocked even experienced police officers and investigators, who noted the excessive violence used against both victims. Initial police response to the crime scene was later criticized for numerous procedural errors, including contamination of evidence, failure to properly secure the area, and inadequate documentation of crucial physical evidence that would become central to the subsequent investigation and trial. The murders occurred during a period when Simpson and Nicole had been attempting reconciliation, though friends of Nicole reported that she had been planning to definitively end any possibility of reuniting with her ex-husband and had been fearful of his reaction to her decision. The investigation into the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman quickly focused on OJ Simpson as the primary suspect, based on his history of domestic violence against Nicole, his lack of a solid alibi for the time of the murders, and physical evidence that appeared to link him to the crime scene. Evidence collected by investigators included blood found at Simpson's Brentwood home that appeared to match DNA from the crime scene, a bloody glove found on his property that matched one found at the murder scene, and a trail of blood leading from his vehicle to his front door that suggested he had been injured during the commission of the crimes. The investigation was complicated by Simpson's celebrity status and the high-profile nature of the case, which attracted intense media attention and created pressure on law enforcement to solve the case quickly while managing unprecedented public scrutiny of their every move. Detective Mark Fuhrman, who was among the first officers to respond to the crime scene and who discovered crucial evidence at Simpson's home, later became a controversial figure when defense attorneys raised questions about his handling of evidence and his history of racist statements that called his credibility into question. The Los Angeles Police Department's investigation was criticized for numerous procedural errors and evidence handling problems that would later be exploited by Simpson's defense team to create reasonable doubt about the prosecution's case. Despite what many legal experts considered overwhelming physical evidence of Simpson's guilt, the arrest of OJ Simpson on June 17, 1994, became one of the most dramatic and widely viewed events in television history.
Simpson held a gun to his own head while the police, on a cell phone, convinced him to turn himself in.
When Simpson fled in a white Ford Bronco driven by his friend Al Cowlings, leading police on a low-speed chase that was watched by an estimated 95 million viewers. The chase began when Simpson failed to surrender to police as scheduled, instead leaving a suicide note and fleeing with Cowlings in a scene that many interpreted as consciousness of guilt.
I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her, always have, and always will.
Though his supporters argued that he was simply panicked and not thinking clearly about the consequences of his actions. The surreal nature of the chase, with police following the Bronco at slow speeds while Simpson held a gun to his head and thousands of supporters lined the freeways cheering for him, illustrated the deep racial and social divisions in American society that would characterize the entire case. The chase ended at Simpson's Brentwood home, where he surrendered to police after negotiations that were broadcast live on television, creating a media spectacle that transformed the case from a celebrity murder investigation into a national obsession that divided Americans along racial lines. The arrest and subsequent legal proceedings would expose deep-seated issues about race, class, celebrity, and justice in American society, making the Simpson case about much more than just the murders of two individuals, but rather a referendum on the fairness of the American legal system. The trial of OJ Simpson began on January 24, 1995, and quickly became known as the trial of the BCE century, due to its unprecedented media coverage, celebrity defendant, and the racial and social issues that it brought to the forefront of American consciousness. Judge Lance IOP over the trial, which was moved from Santa Monica to downtown Los Angeles in a decision that proved crucial to the outcome, as the downtown jury pool was significantly more diverse and included more African Americans who were sympathetic to arguments about police misconduct and racism. The prosecution team, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, presented what they believed was overwhelming physical evidence of Simpson's guilt, including DNA evidence, the timeline of events, and Simpson's history of domestic violence against Nicole. The defense team, dubbed the Dream Team, included Johnny Cochran, Alan Dershowitz, F. Lee Bailey, Robert Shapiro, and Robert Kardashian, among others. They successfully shifted the focus from Simpson's guilt to the conduct of the Los Angeles Police Department and the possibility that evidence had been planted or contaminated. The trial lasted 372 days and included 150 witnesses, with television coverage that often resembled entertainment programming more than serious legal proceedings, as the case became a daily soap opera that captivated American audiences and dominated news coverage. The defense strategy centered on raising reasonable doubt about the prosecution's case by focusing on police misconduct, evidence contamination, and racism within the Los Angeles Police Department, rather than directly arguing that Simpson was innocent of the murders. Johnny Cochran's famous phrase, "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit," delivered during the glove demonstration when Simpson appeared to struggle to put on the bloody gloves found at the crime scene, became one of the most memorable moments of the trial and effectively summarized the defense strategy. The revelation of Detective Mark Fuhrman's racist statements, captured on audio recordings, provided the defense with powerful evidence to support their arguments about police racism and the possibility that evidence had been planted to frame Simpson. The prosecution's case was also damaged by their decision to have Simpson try on the gloves in front of the jury, a demonstration that backfired when the gloves appeared too small, though critics noted that Simpson may have been wearing latex gloves underneath and that leather shrinks when exposed to blood. The domestic violence evidence, which many legal experts believed should have been central to establishing motive, was not effectively presented by the prosecution and failed to persuade jurors who were more focused on the technical aspects of the physical evidence and the defense arguments about police misconduct. On October 3, 1995, after deliberating for less than 4 hours, the jury delivered a not guilty verdict that was watched by an estimated 150 million viewers worldwide, making it one of the most watched events in television history and creating dramatically different reactions among racial groups. The verdict was celebrated by many African Americans who viewed it as a rare instance of a black man receiving justice from a system that had historically discriminated against people of color, while many white Americans were shocked and angered by what they saw as the acquittal of an obviously guilty man. The speed of the jury's deliberations surprised legal experts and suggested that the jurors had largely accepted the defense arguments about reasonable doubt, rather than carefully weighing the extensive evidence presented during the lengthy trial. The racial divide and reactions to the verdict highlighted deep-seated tensions in American society about race, justice, and equality that had been simmering beneath the surface and were brought into stark relief by the high-profile nature of the case. The acquittal in the criminal trial did not end Simpson's legal troubles, as the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman filed a civil lawsuit seeking monetary damages for the wrongful deaths of their loved ones. The civil trial, which began in 1996, operated under different legal standards than the criminal trial, requiring only a preponderance of evidence rather than proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and allowing evidence that had been excluded from the criminal trial. The civil jury, which was more racially diverse than the criminal jury and included no African Americans, heard additional evidence including Simpson's deposition testimony, in which he was forced to answer questions under oath about his relationship with Nicole and his whereabouts on the night of the murders. On February 4, 1997, the civil jury found Simpson liable for the wrongful deaths of both Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, ordering him to pay $33.05 in compensatory and punitive damages to the victims' families. The contrasting verdicts in the criminal and civil trials reflected the different legal standards and jury compositions, but also highlighted the complexity of the case and the different ways that evidence could be interpreted depending on the context and the audience. Following his acquittal in the criminal trial, Simpson largely disappeared from public view, though he faced ongoing financial pressures due to the civil judgment and his inability to maintain the income levels he had enjoyed during his entertainment career. His attempts over a year into public life were generally unsuccessful, as many Americans continued to believe in his guilt despite the criminal acquittal, making him a controversial figure who was unwelcome in many of the social and business circles he had previously frequented. Simpson's financial situation deteriorated over the years following the trial, as he struggled to pay the civil judgment while maintaining his lifestyle and supporting his family. His inability to find steady work in entertainment or sports broadcasting limited his income and forced him to sell many of his possessions. The publication of his book, If I Did It, which was positioned as a hypothetical account of how the murders might have been committed, created additional controversy and legal complications when the Goldman family successfully gained control of the rights and republished it with additional commentary. His life during this period was marked by various legal troubles and personal difficulties, including issues with unpaid debts, disputes with creditors, and ongoing scrutiny from media and law enforcement that made it difficult for him to rebuild his life and career. In 2008, Simpson was convicted of armed robbery and kidnapping in Las Vegas in connection with an incident involving sports memorabilia that he claimed belonged to him, resulting in a sentence of up to 33 years in prison. The Las Vegas case involved Simpson and several associates confronting memorabilia dealers in a hotel room in an attempt to recover items that Simpson believed had been stolen from him, though the incident was recorded and provided clear evidence of criminal activity. Many observers viewed the harsh sentence as delayed justice for the murders, as the Nevada judge imposed a punishment that seemed disproportionate to the actual crimes committed in Las Vegas, but reflected the accumulated frustration with Simpson's legal immunity in the murder case. Simpson served 9 years in Nevada State Prison before being granted parole in 2017, at which point he was 70 years old and facing significant health problems that had developed during his incarceration. His release from prison was met with renewed media attention and public interest, though Simpson maintained a low profile and largely avoided public appearances or interviews that might remind the public of his controversial past. The families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman never stopped seeking justice and accountability for the murders, pursuing various legal strategies and maintaining pressure on law enforcement to continue investigating the case even after Simpson's criminal acquittal. Fred Goldman, Ronald's father, became a particularly vocal advocate for justice, writing books, giving interviews, and pursuing legal remedies to hold Simpson accountable for his son's death and to ensure that the case remained in the public consciousness. The Golden family's persistence in pursuing civil remedies and keeping the case alive in the media reflected their belief that Simpson had escaped justice in the criminal trial and their determination to find other ways to hold him accountable for the murders. Kim Goldman, Ronald's sister, also became an advocate for victims' rights and used her platform to raise awareness about domestic violence and the impact of violent crime on families while continuing to seek accountability for her brother's murder. The family's ongoing efforts to maintain attention on the case in their pursuit of justice kept the Simpson case in the public eye for decades and provided a counter-narrative to those who believed that the criminal acquittal had definitively resolved the matter. The Simpson case had a profound and lasting impact on American popular culture, legal procedures, and public discourse about race, celebrity, and justice that continue to influence society long after a trial concluded. The extensive television coverage of the trial changed how legal proceedings were reported and transformed court proceedings into entertainment spectacles that prioritized drama and personalities over legal analysis and factual reporting. The case contributed to the rise of legal commentary as a form of entertainment, with television networks hiring lawyers and former prosecutors to provide analysis and predictions about legal proceedings in ways that sometimes resembled sports commentary more than serious journalism. The racial divisions exposed by the case and the different reactions to the verdict along racial lines provided a stark illustration of how differently white and black Americans viewed the criminal justice system and police conduct. The case also highlighted issues of domestic violence and the ways that celebrity status and wealth could protect abusers from accountability, though these aspects of the case were often overshadowed by the racial and legal controversies. The DNA evidence presented during the Simpson trial was among the first major criminal cases to rely heavily on genetic evidence, helping to educate the public about the science of DNA analysis while also demonstrating the limitations and potential problems with such evidence. The defense strategy of attacking the collection and handling of DNA evidence established precedents for challenging forensic evidence that have been used in countless subsequent criminal cases involving gene ICE diets. The case also highlighted problems with police evidence collection and crime scene management, leading to improvements in training and procedures that have made law enforcement more careful about maintaining the integrity of physical evidence. The prosecution's difficulties in explaining complex scientific evidence to jurors illustrated the challenges of presenting technical evidence in ways that non-experts could understand and evaluate effectively. The legacy of the Simpson case includes both advances in forensic science and increased awareness of the limitations and potential problems with physical evidence that can be compromised by poor collection or handling procedures. Over the decades following the trial, numerous documentaries, books, television series, and films have examined different aspects of the Simpson case, often reaching different conclusions about Simpson's guilt and the fairness of the trial proceedings. The 2016 FX series The People v. OJ Simpson American Crime Story brought renewed attention to the case and introduced it to a new generation of viewers who had not experienced the original trial, while also providing a more critical examination of the racial and social issues involved. The ESPN documentary series OJ Made in America provided a comprehensive examination of Simpson's life and the cultural context of the case, winning an Academy Award and demonstrating continued public fascination with the story more than 20 years after the trial. These retrospective examinations have generally been more critical of Simpson and more sympathetic to the victims than the original trial coverage, reflecting changed attitudes about domestic violence and celebrity privilege over the intervening decades. The continued production of content about the Simpson case demonstrates its lasting impact on American culture and the unresolved questions that continue to fascinate audiences decades after the murders occurred. Simpson's death in April 2024 was widely reported and reignited public interest in the case, with many media outlets providing retrospective coverage of his life, career, and legal troubles while avoiding definitive statements about his guilt or innocence in the murders. The reaction to his death was mixed, with some focusing on his athletic achievements and entertainment career, while others emphasized his legal troubles and the belief that he had escaped justice for the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. His family's decision to keep funeral arrangements private reflected the ongoing controversy surrounding Simpson and their desire to avoid the media spectacle that had characterized much of his later life. The death also prompted renewed discussion about the case among legal experts, victims' advocates, and the general public, with many reflecting on the lasting impact of the trial and its significance in American legal and cultural history. Questions arose about whether Simpson's death would finally close the book on the case or whether new information might still emerge that could provide additional insights into the murders and their aftermath. In early 2025, several months after Simpson's death, reports began to emerge suggesting that new evidence or information related to the murders had been discovered, though the specific nature of these developments remained unclear and subject to speculation and rumor. The possibility of new evidence emerging after Simpson's death created renewed interest in the case and raised questions about whether previously unknown information had been concealed or overlooked during the original investigation and trial. Legal experts noted that Simpson's death would eliminate any possibility of additional criminal prosecution, but that new evidence could still have significance for historical understanding of the case and for the family seeking closure and answers. The families of the victims expressed cautious optimism that new developments might provide additional information about the murders, while remaining skeptical that any new evidence would definitively resolve the remaining questions about the case. The potential for new revelations about the Simpson case demonstrated that even decades-old criminal cases can continue to evolve, and that the pursuit of truth and justice does not necessarily end with the death of the primary suspect. If you're as fascinated by these developments in the OJ Simpson case as we are, go ahead and like this video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about the possibility of new evidence emerging after all these years? Do you believe the truth about what happened that night will ever be fully known? We want to hear your perspective on one of America's most controversial criminal cases. Then, hit subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss our coverage of true crime stories and the ongoing pursuit of justice. Thanks for watching.